Welcome to Screen Junkies News. Disney's latest, Moana, is in theaters now, and we are so excited today because we have with us the screenwriter, Jared Bush. Jared, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Here to break down all the secrets that you don't know about but are desperate to find out about Moana. With me is Andy Signor.
So excited. I'm just honored to have not only Moana, but also a co-director writer on Zootopia as well.
What are you going to
What a
do
year.
when you're up against yourself at the Academy Awards?
I'm going to talk shit about myself in the other movie. I think is the only way to handle that.
Do you have one that you would root for more?
No, I've been asked. I hope that I have to root for like myself. That would be amazing.
Well, I was interested because we were talking a little bit earlier, but what I didn't know is that the Pixar team, the Disney team, you guys do work together. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, for sure. So typically, these movies take about 3 to 5 years to make. During that 5-year period, we screen the movie. That means we write it, we storyboard it, edit it, put everything together, and screen it about 10 times. And once during that 10 screening process, we typically take our movies up to Pixar, and Pixar will take their movie down to Disney Animation so that we can, we as a group get together and give each other feedback. And it's super helpful because it's fresh eyes, but it's also a very safe room. But it's also, there's no holds barred. So we go to town, and when they see our movies, they really hit us and say, have you guys thought about this, this, and this? And it allows us to rethink our movies late in the process at a time where they can make these pretty profound impacts on the movies.
I remember doing a trip to Pixar once, and that was one of the most fascinating things. They talked about the movies are so strong because they're working on story right through to the very end. Were there any big changes that happened in Moana in terms of the story?
I was going to say, what did Pixar, what were their notes?
No, they had some great notes, actually. One of the biggest notes was the whole prologue. They thought they actually asked us to add that prologue. So at the top, we always knew Maui was there, but to have the grandmother tell that story and explain how everything works was one of their big ideas to put that in there, which I thought was great. And I think it allowed the audience to understand how Te Fiti worked and that mythology. So that was really helpful. But then in general, they also just pushed for more of the ocean and more of the mini Maui tattoo. They thought that they were such special new characters that animation has never seen. We added a bunch more scenes of those two characters in the movie after we met with Pixar.
That's a great note because I loved those tattoos, and the fact that it was hand-drawn in this computer animated world was just so gorgeous.
The tattoo reminded me sort of like of the magic carpet in Aladdin.
Yeah, for sure.
It's sort of the soundless sidekick, but in a completely new way that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, we have a lot of pantomime characters in the movie. So you have the ocean, you have the mini Maui tattoo, the Kakamora pretty much don't speak, and Te Fiti doesn't talk. Oh, neither does Taka. So it's very unusual to have that many key characters that don't actually talk.
Do you have a favorite sort of small moment or key element like that?
God, there's so many amazing moments. I think that there's this moment where the ocean shoves Hey in a basket and then puts Hey inside the boat and then slams it shut. Was one of my favorites because it gave the ocean. You kind of think of the ocean as this kind of almost a deity, and then to have the ocean be like, I hate this chicken, I'm done with it, get away, was one of my favorite moments for sure.
My other one was when the reveal and the tight on him and his eyes widen.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's supposedly the dumbest character, but he's smart enough to be scared that he's...
That was the only time. That's the only time in the whole movie he's aware of his surroundings, actually. That was the one time we did it.
My understanding, so Taika Waititi, who is obviously directing Thor Ragnarok, did the first pass on the script, right?
Yeah.
So how did you guys work together, and sort of how important was authenticity to you?
Yeah, hugely important. So typically in these movies, like I said, it takes about 5 years. When Taika was working on it, I was actually still in Zootopia. So creatively on Moana, we didn't cross paths, except that as a group at Disney Animation, we always help out on each other's movies. So when they would have a screening or when they have script reads, we were all in those meetings. So I was very familiar with the project at that point. And when Ron and John came back from their research trips, when we're talking about authenticity, that was hugely important to see those
research trips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough for those guys. But they met with a group of amazing people, linguists, tattoo artists, dancers, village elders, that became our Oceanic Story Trust. It was a group of people from the Pacific Islands who were with us every step of the way. Every draft of the script went to them for their help. And then so early on, it's very typical at Disney because it takes so long. I think Taika joked that he finished 2 movies and had a baby in the amount of time it took us to just do an additional like 3 drafts. So I think that he was happy to have that time, but to have his input and his sensibility into the movie early on, I think really set a great tone.
In terms of Zootopia, I want to talk about Moana for sure, but I'm curious because, man, it doesn't really pull back thematically at all. There's so much in there. There's so many adult themes. Was there ever a moment where the studio said, maybe not this? Was there anything that they pulled you back on?
No, actually quite the opposite. Typically, well, first off, when we were originally pitching the idea, they were really excited that this movie could say something and speak to our modern world and issues that we all deal with. And then in later versions of the movie, as we're going through the screening cycle, anytime we'd ever pull back, whether it was intentional or not, they'd say, whoa, like there's no teeth, like put the teeth back in, like we need to have this. And so we had an immense amount of support from the inception of that concept. So that's something that I was really excited about, and working in a place where they want that and they feel that's important, and pushing us to do more of it was great. And ultimately, I think is why the movie turned out the way it did.
It must have been complicated to build the rules of that city. Was there a point where you guys were like, it's fine, there'll be a subway door for that? How serious do you get in
or the
sort
biology?
I'm just trying to really rationalize it all. Like, because I actually didn't. It was, you guys did it so well that I didn't really care or notice.
Yeah.
When usually as an honest trailer person, I'm always looking for those. No, they're not. But I'm just curious, how hard was that?
Really hard. When I joined Zootopia, it was about 5 years ago. Byron had been working on that beforehand, starting to build the world out. The design of the world and how it worked was a little different prior to that. But they were already thinking about, okay, we have all these animals at different sizes, and one of the biggest things that John wanted to do, he said, okay, John Lasseter, if we're going to do a talking animal movie, how do we make a talking animal movie like no one's ever seen before? And so research was really the answer to that. Okay, so you have a mouse and you have an elephant. They have to live in one city, and we literally thought, okay, how would a city hold that? What would they do to make that possible? Not just, okay, yeah, they can go over here, but how would that actually be possible? So we spent 8 or 9 months just on research trying to figure out how to build this world. So for me, like a kid in a candy store, I get to help build a civilization, which is like, oh my God. And we have amazing artists and city planners and city builders, and literally would come in. Matthias Lechner did so much work at this movie where he would actually design the whole city. We'd say, okay, I think the Rainforest District here, and Sahara Square's over here, and over here is Tundra Town, and he'd come back with a drawing that had like thousands of buildings, and he'd figure out how all that worked. And okay, well, the steam from the rainforest would be driven by the runoff from Tundra Town, and this is where it would melt to this place. And you're watching this and going, I don't know how this is possible that you're doing this, but he'd literally find a way that all of it worked. He's German, and his German brain was like, I will find a way that this is all makes sense, and it was phenomenal.
Have you seen the Zootopia Honest trailer?
Of course I have.
What did you think of it?
I love it. I love all the Honest trailers, honestly. That was one of my, I was waiting. I was like, oh, I hope they do one. I hope they do one.
Yeah, you guys really changed the furry community.
No comment.
No comment.
What would the one for Moana be?
Yeah, any tips for us?
No, I'm gonna let you guys go to town. I want to be surprised.
The Rock plays Dwayne DJ, as we've been lucky enough to call him.
Sure.
He plays a big part. Was he always there from the beginning? Was there any sort of version without him, or was it like, no, you got to have him be this?
No, so that predates my work on the movie, but I know from Osnat Shur, who's the producer, he was the only person they ever had in mind for that character. They said, okay, it has to be Dwayne, has to be him. It can be no one else, and they didn't go to anybody else. They just said to him directly, would you like to be in this movie? And he has roots in Samoa, and he was excited to do it, but I can't imagine anyone else ever being able to pull that off. Certainly in the way that he did it. Working with him was, but I loved it. You guys have worked with him before.
Yeah, he's so nice.
He's the best. So I had a lot of time in a very small booth with that gentleman.
Did you get any insight from Lynn and making him sing? It seemed like that was.
Yeah, that was so fun to watch in the BTS.
Yeah. We recorded that in Miami. That was one of my favorite days on the movie, just because we knew that we were waiting for, I think, 2 months or 3 months for Dwayne's schedule and Lynn's schedule to meet at the same point where they could both be in the same place at the same time. And when he came in, Dwayne was so ready. His girlfriend Lauren said it made him sing that song in the car every day for like hours and hours and hours. And so when he came in, I think he was excited to actually record it so he wouldn't have to practice anymore. But he came in and nailed it. It was amazing.
I mean, you have to have the confidence of The Rock to go in and sing a song with Lin-Manuel Miranda and feel like totally great about it.
Right, exactly. Well, and also I think that it's funny, the patter part, the more hip hop part, was the one that we knew Dwayne would murder that. But there's some real melodic parts and high notes, and that was the part where we were so excited when Dwayne came in and just crushed it. It was unbelievable.
One of the things that I really love about the film is that I feel like it does it plays with the tropes, but it breaks the conventions in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, obviously this is a very different kind of princess, and then they overtly talk about, I'm not a princess,
Right.
I'm a leader. But I also like that there's no real villain. So how conscious are you when you are playing with the tropes that way?
Very conscious. I mean, I think that we, when we go through the story, all of us are hitting this from different angles, and we want to evolve the type of characters we can put on screen. Certainly in a princess movie, which, again, like you said, she's not the princess. She's the daughter of the chief. She's going to be a chief one day, and we wanted to make sure that felt like a line in the sand that we were drawing. But we also don't want to try to be so different that we're making a comment on any movie that's come before. Like,
Yeah.
it has to fold into that same group of movies people have come to love, but at the same time feel like, oh, this is something different, and we're playing with some of those conventions that people have gotten accustomed to, which is really fun from a writing standpoint. I loved that, to sort of go down an angle and all of a sudden take a left turn. It was really, really exciting.
I'm curious, as a Disney fan, and our Screen Junkies are obsessed with all these movies, but like, is there any insight you can give us of things to look for, things that you were surprised you were able to sneak in? Secrets.
There are some secrets. If you look in the underworld in Lalotai, there are 2 huge Easter eggs in that. Actually, in one scene, there's both a character from Zootopia and Frozen in the same shot. And they're animated. There's one that everyone has, I think, seen. That there's an obvious one that happens, but it's not that one. There's actually 2 other ones, major characters in those movies. 2 of my favorites from Frozen and Zootopia to look for. So
Can that become an ongoing thing, like the Pizza Planet truck and all Pixar movies?
I should hope so. Yeah.
Are there other Easter eggs?
There are Easter eggs all over the place. Baymax makes an appearance. You have to look very carefully. I'll just say Baymax's face. Makes an appearance.
In the ocean?
Yeah, I can't give you all these details.
He's making us go find it. But
Yeah,
now you know what to
maybe look in the Kakamora section for Baymax.
Yeah.
Take a look around there. I have yet to see it, but I've heard that Aladdin's lamp might be in the movie, that Flounder from Little Mermaid makes an appearance. So most of these we don't even know about. I actually find them as I'm watching the movie myself. I'm like, wait a minute. It's because you have 800 people working on these movies, and everyone tries, to put in Easter eggs as they can. So to me, that's actually great. Even in Zootopia, I still go, wait a second. That's been out for a while. So yeah, it's really fun.
What's your dream Disney project? What do you got coming up?
I might be working on my dream Disney project right now,
would
but
that
I'm not
be?
allowed to talk about it, which is not great.
In writing these movies, I didn't realize you said you can rewrite and reanimate the script pretty late in the game. Explain that to the audience. Like, how late can you make an edit choice in the story?
Very late. Typically, John Lasseter says our movies are never finished; they're just released, which is true. At some point, they say like, we will take this movie and it will be in theaters now, and we will continue to change up to the last minute. I think on Zootopia, 3 months from release, we were still adjusting things. On Moana, the mother, she didn't have a mother until about 5 months before the movie came out. Maybe it was 6, but very late in the process. Typically, you can make animation tweaks up till 2 months before the movie comes out. Writing is different because if you rewrite something, you have to reanimate it and relight it and do a lot of effect shots. And so if you start
the audio.
exactly, it's a lot. But that said, sometimes you can do audio drops in pretty late into the movie if you say, okay, well, this isn't clear, and so you'll use a over the shoulder shot and put different dialogue in there to make something clear, or VO, you can change that kind of thing. But typically we adjust things pretty late if we can. Yeah.
Do you guys think that something like, we were talking earlier today about box office and sort of the expectations around that, is something like the phenomenon, I mean, Moana's doing really well, is the phenomenon of Frozen something that's just good for animation, or does it create a crazy bar?
You know, it's interesting. Someone actually asked me that earlier. No, what the success of Frozen did was allow us to take chances. So I actually think that because Frozen was such a success, taking a chance on a movie about animals that's really about bias becomes something that we're allowed to do. So typically, I think for all of us, we love to be able to take chances, and so movies that do really well allow us to take those chances. So there's no real bar set aside from internally. We typically, honestly, just like to make really good movies, and hopefully audiences will come and see those movies and it will be financially successful. But really, what we do every day is we really don't think about financially what it will do, just how do we tell this story the best way and make compelling characters.
I'm curious. I love both Moana and Zootopia, so it bears the question: what are your feeling on sequels? I mean, do you feel like you like telling the original stories more? And follow-up question: do you feel like both of these movies could warrant a sequel?
Well, telling an original story I'd love to do because you're setting characters up. But that said, to continue a character story in a new way and maybe bringing more characters into that world is really exciting too. So I think both of these movies certainly there's always a way to continue telling those stories. If you have built a compelling relationship between in both of these movies, a duo, seeing them go on another adventure is always something really exciting. For me personally, I think both is really fun. I come from a live-action feature background, but also a television background. And in television, obviously, you're using your same group of characters and you're telling story after story after story. So that's something I'm really comfortable with, and I like finding different dynamics between them. So I think, to answer it, yes, I think that I would love to see more stories for both of these movies, for sure.
I was gonna say, when Disney buys Netflix, I want to see the Zootopia TV series.
That would be an awesome series.
Yeah, it's like Law and Order. That's what we call it.
It would.
Netflix, Disney, Twitter land, which is the next theme park coming to us in the greater California.
So there's no requirements in the movies of like, this has to be a ride. This has to be
I wish though. No. If anything's ever a ride, that's just like the icing on the cake. If someone said, hey, this is going to be a ride, but what? I get to go ride this ride that we helped create? It's awesome.
Or do you ever get any notes that are kind of like, we really think that there's a great doll in this sloth. We're going to need more of the sloth. You know, are there notes based on the merchandising?
No, typically not. I think that there's characters you fall in love with, like Pua in Moana was a character everyone fell in love with. Originally, Pua was supposed to be on the boat with Moana. He was supposed to be on the boat. And over the screening process, we realized that if Moana brought this comforting little bundle of love with her, that it would actually make her journey easier, and we didn't want it to be easier. So he did not get to on the boat. It used to be both him and Hei on the boat together, but we said, okay, now you're just stuck with the dumbass rooster, and that's what you get. But there was I did get a lot of hate mail within the company, as everyone did. They'll joke about it, but like on our doors, like, save Pua, put Pua back on the boat.
Needs more pig.
Yeah, where's the pig?
It's funny because my friend said that. We were like, well, I could have used, I love the movie. It's almost, I just could have used a little more pig.
A little more pig.
But there was a version where Pua was on.
Yeah, for a long time, Pua was on the boat. Yeah. There was key elements where Pua was there, but yeah, like I said, like it made Moana's journey easier, and so any chance we could get to make her journey harder so that she would have to persevere in spite of that, we did it, and so that's why he had to.
Do you wrestle? I mean, you came in late, you said, but did you wrestle with like what animal sidekick to pick?
No.
Is there a wheel?
Well, where is it gonna be, rooster, pig? Those animals were already established before I joined the movie. When Ron and John went to the Pacific Islands, they said that they saw chickens, they saw roosters and pigs everywhere, so they knew it had to be a rooster and a pig, but also early versions of those characters. The pig character Pua looked a little bit like Ron, and the ornery chicken looked a little bit like John, and they typically find ways to caricature themselves in the movie. So that duo was them. They'll say that. Not my words, their words.
Is that their cameo?
Yeah. They actually do have a different cameo. You have to look at that. That's in the first act. Look for there's a little cameo with them.
Well, I just want to take a second to applaud you guys on making a choice that made perfect sense for the story. Despite the fact that there is a really cute pig available to you. I think that's awesome. I really do.
Yeah.
So we did a video on this recently where Disney films often get there's a lot of kind of urban legends around are there saucy bits in there? What sort of do you think that people are going to accuse Moana and Zootopia of having saucy bits around?
We established the furries.
Yeah.
Is it the furry?
I don't think that's a loaded question at all. You know what? I never know. I just on my Twitter feed, I get a question. I go, what? How did you? Oh my God!
Why did you interpret that, you monster?
We'll have to wait and find out. I don't know. I can't wait. Oh, Tumblr's even worse. So we'll see what Tumblr says. I'll get pictures with people being very explicit about that.
All right, we'll direct ourselves to the Tumblrs and the Twitters to find out what the people say.
What's your favorite Disney movie? Now that you're in the family, can you pick one?
Jungle Book for me was the first Disney animated movie I ever saw. I loved it. When I was growing up, music was a huge part of my life, and in college I had this debate: am I going to be a writer or a musician? And so a Disney musical to me actually combines both of those things into one job, one project. And so to me, Jungle Book set that in motion. I loved that there was a character. I love villains. I love villains so much. And Shere Khan is one of my favorite villains of all time because he's trying to eat a child, and I root for him to be on screen, which shouldn't happen. But I just love the whole vibe. I don't know. I fell in love with it, so that's probably my favorite.
So in 40 years, you can be okay with a remake of the live-action Zootopia or the live-action Moana?
I would love to see them do a live-action Zootopia because I don't know how that would be possible. Moana I could see, and that would be amazing. I would love to see that.
Could you fan cast the title role, the main? Would you just have the same actors do it?
I mean, probably Ali. Oddly, so the Moana character was completely designed before Ali was cast, but they look very, very similar. Yeah. Dwayne as Maui, he'd have to work out a little bit more to
yeah, he's not quite big enough.
To fill in those muscles. I could see him maybe being okay at it.
Thank you so much. We could talk to you all day long. This has been so much fun. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Do you like the people to talk to you on the social medias?
Of course,
Where
at all
can
times.
they find you?
They can find me Twitter at @TheJaredBush.
All right, and Andy is at Andy Signor.
Just find me there.
I am at Roth Cornett. We are at SJ News. Let us know what you thought of Moana and Zootopia and what Easter eggs you found. You want to sing us out with Bare Necessities?
Oh, wow.
That's really on the spot.
Simple bare necessities. I'll do it. Thanks for watching Screen Junkies News.
Try everything.
Yay.